Hi, this is Caroline from The Happy Sensitive, and in this audio, I wanted to share with you that the other day I was in this place of unhealthy perfectionism. I was wanting to scream and I couldn't stop, right? And so I wanted to share that because, getting this stuff right doesn't mean that you are always in this place where you're always balanced and you're always feeling great, you're always doing things the right way. It just sometimes it just means that you recognize when something you're doing is not healthy. And perfectionism can be one of the things that we go to as a bit of an escape, where if you feel like you're losing grasp on things in your life, things are overwhelming and stressful, sometimes going to some kind of work task or something that you're doing in your home or something that you're trying to organize, whatever it is, you can kind of lose yourself in that activity. It's a way to focus, right? Like you focus on that activity, you just try to get it all right and really good. And but then what happens is sometimes it becomes a crutch, so the thing that you're doing becomes a crutch to try to manage stress or overwhelm and not have to deal with your feelings. um, I noticed that I went through this because I was having my period, a very normal occurrence, but I had an unusual number of cramps. Normally, it's not a big deal. This time around, it was a big deal. I was cramping a lot. I felt kind of sick, and I knew I just kind of need to, it's gonna happen. It's gonna pass. I just need to get through this. But I noticed that I was using focusing on something to do as a way to cope, which in itself is fine, but I was taking it too far. And what I really needed to do is just you know, sit down, maybe have a cup of tea, and just let myself feel sick and not try to run from that. But as a person, it's normal that you're going to have experiences that you don't like and that you don't enjoy, and you're going to try and run from them. And so one of the ways we can end up running from our experiences is by focusing on something and then trying to get it perfect and trying to get it beautiful and amazing and getting everything to line up. And especially when you're hurting somehow, this is a really tempting escape because it's kind of like you're trying to teleport yourself to a better reality. It's like okay, my life's a mess. In my case, like my gut's a mess. Like I'm cramping, I'm hurting, but maybe I can figure out this thing that I'm trying to do and just make everything about it feel good and right. Right? It's just a way to try to transport yourself to this different reality where you have control. And that's the trap of unhealthy perfectionism, where it's no longer relevant. It's no longer, keeping your priorities straight. You're no longer enjoying making stuff right because you get caught up in this loop where you're trying because you're trying to get away from something that is there and that you need to acknowledge or deal with or just put up with. Cramping when you're menstruating, that's just something you have to put up with. Like not that much you can do. You can get a hot water bottle, you might have some herbs or something that help, but overall it's just something that happens. um, so that's something that can happen, right? And it's important to notice, right? So what I teach my clients, what I teach in my courses, it's never, oh, if you do this you're bad, and if you do this you're good, and you always have to do this to be good. Life doesn't work that way. It's just recognizing, okay, you know what? I'm highly sensitive. I have these abilities. I have these gifts. I have these things that I'm good at. But here's the pitfalls that come with that. And here's what healthy balance looks like. And this is what falling off just getting unbalanced looks like for me. And this is what that feels like. And this is how I recognize it. So when you recognize it, it's easier to stop and be like, oh, I slipped into unhealthy perfectionism. And for me, that's been a while. It's been a while since I did that, but I kind of recognized, oh, I used to slip into this state back in my university days where I get so caught up in trying to get the assignment that I was working on done and getting it all right, and then just pushing myself way too far. So it's good to be reminded of that from time to time for me too, because it helps remind me of what that's like. And sometimes we can think, oh, I haven't experienced this uh, I haven't experienced this in a long time. So, it's, It's totally fine. I don't have this problem. But these kinds of things, they just come with the terrain of being highly sensitive. So you're going to have these things pop up from time to time. And especially if you have more stress than usual, or you're going through a rough phase, or like in my case, I suddenly had like body pain that I don't normally have. Sometimes you can find yourself falling back into old patterns and grasping onto old habits. Yeah, so that's what this is. I have an email series that talks more about perfectionism and my ideas about perfectionism. I have a very different take than most people. There's a lot going around the internet like perfectionism is bad and you have to strive to be good enough, not perfectionist. And that may help some people, but the problem with that is it doesn't actually give you any practical limits. It just says perfectionism is bad, don't do it. And I don't know about you, but I don't find that very useful. And the other thing is, it doesn't acknowledge that perfectionism can actually be, a good thing too. I mean, I want the people who are in charge of really life or death situations, I don't want them to wing it. Okay. I don't want them to be like, it's good enough. If you have a surgeon who's like, it's good enough, these are the people who leave pieces of cloth in their clients. You don't want that. You want them to be a total perfectionist and make sure they got everything right and they double checked it. And because it matters a lot. So perfectionism is not this bad thing that you have to get rid of at all costs. It's just you need to understand when and where to use it. You need to understand, wait, where am I getting out of balance because I'm trying to do something perfectionistically that just it doesn't work right now, and there's different reasons for that, right? There's lots of different reasons for that. And so I have a course on that as well inside the Happy Sense of Library that goes into what are all the ins and outs of perfectionism and what are some really helpful rules of thumb to help you identify, now it makes sense to be perfectionistic, now it doesn't. This is how I can manage it when I could get caught up in it and kind of get out of it again. All these things. So making it really practical. I really believe in that. And I believe that's really helpful. And I think that, the posters that say perfectionism is bad, it's easy to get behind, but it's not very useful in practice. All right. I hope this was helpful. Thanks so much for listening. Bye bye.